If you're there and willing to unmute yourself, feel free. I'd love to see you all and chat with you all. Awesome, welcome. If you want to just chat in the chat, that's great too. I'd love to hear where you're from as well, if you can put that in the chat. But welcome, I'm so glad you're here. Congratulations on getting into UMW. Today we're just going to chat a little bit about our geography department, but we're happy to answer any questions that you have about the UMW experience, academic experience. We're just here to answer your questions for a little while. So welcome, thanks again for joining us. This session is being recorded, so if you are okay with having your video on and unmuted, that's great. And if not, that's totally fine too. My name is Dr. Finlayson. I'm a professor here in the Department of Geography. We also have a student joining us. Beth, can you introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Beth. I'm a geography major and I'm also a senior, so I'm graduating this spring. Yeah, geography is great.
Excellent, thanks so much, Beth. So anytime you have questions, I don't mind being interrupted at all. And so feel free to just unmute yourself. If you think of a question and want to pop it in the chat, feel free as well. I'll try and keep an eye on the chat. So let's just talk a little bit about what is geography. I know relatively few students come to college thinking, I want to be a geographer. I wish more did, because I think we're a pretty awesome department. But if you wouldn't mind in the chat, how many of you have had a geography class before? Maxwell or Sam, have you had geography classes before? Or again, feel free to unmute yourself. While they're thinking, Beth, had you had geography before you came to UMW?
No, I actually never took a geography class before college. I think maybe like the closest thing in high school I took, was it world geography?
Yeah,
world
right.
geography, world history. And there was some like geography in that course, but it wasn't a focus.
Yeah, I'm the same way, right? I never taken it in high school. I think we had like social studies 4. Do you know what I mean? Like the generic kind of social studies course that had a little bit of history, a little bit geography. But most students, haven't really been exposed to much geography classes. I think increasingly students are taking AP human geography, and so maybe you've taken that class before. But a lot of the time students really don't know about geography and think that it is just about memorizing capitals. Most people, when I say I'm a geographer, say, oh, I love rocks or some variation of that. And I have to then explain that I'm a geographer, not a geologist. For a very long time, my own parents were confused and thought I was a geologist. And geology is awesome, but that's not really what we do. So geography, we do certainly study maps, but it's really the study of people and places and environments of our world. And so we answer the where and the why. So where are certain places or people or landforms, and really why are they there? And the why, I think, is much more interesting. So even if you had geography, even in like middle school geography classes, I see that with my son, my older son's in 3rd grade, and they really focus on the where, right? Where is this river? Where is this mountain chain? And that's really interesting. I think it's really important to know where things are, but I find the why so much more fascinating. So geography, we like to say, is the quintessential liberal arts discipline. And what does that actually mean? I think by now, again, you've been admitted to UMW, and so you probably know that we're a liberal arts university. But when I hear students answer the question, what is a liberal arts university? They often say things like, well, they want you to study a lot of different things, or they want you to be well-rounded. And that's true in a sense, right? Like we want you to be well-rounded citizens. We do want you to take a variety of classes. But that's true of all universities, right? Like all universities have gen eds. All universities want you to be well-rounded. And so liberal arts is quite a bit different. You might think of it as the difference between learning a specific computer programming language versus understanding algorithms and math and problem solving to help solve complex problems using computers in whatever language you might be exposed to. And so similarly for geography, it means that rather than focusing on map quizzes and memorization, it's really more about understanding how the world is interconnected and understanding how history and politics and climate and culture all interact on a spatial scale, and then using that knowledge to solve global issues. So you can see why liberal arts degrees are in high demand for employers. And that's again why we like to say geography is the quintessential liberal arts discipline, because we really are looking at the world from a complex way and really working on problem solving. And why I think this is in demand for employers is it means that we are equipping you for not just the job that you get right after graduation, but for jobs that don't even exist yet, right? Industries that might be in demand 10 or 15 years down the road. So now that you know a little bit more about geography and what we study, that we study this where and the why, let's turn to why geography matters just a moment. So if you don't believe me, take a look at some of these headlines. I typically spend a long time in my world regional geography class talking about the fact that the world is increasingly interconnected and that this interconnectedness can have profound effects on our landscape. And since the pandemic, I don't have to try to convince people of that so hard, right? If you didn't know it before, you know it now. The world is really interconnected. And that can have dramatic effects on our own lives, right? What happens in a distant country, what resources they have, what their healthcare system looks like. Like all of those things have a dramatic effect on us. The type of government they have matters. And so I think we're going to see a resurgence of geography. And I've seen a lot more headlines about how geography majors are going to be in high demand because, those skills of being able to examine global issues from a spatial perspective, like those are skills that are going to be very, very important in our modern society. I know that we don't want to spend all of our time talking about the pandemic though. So let's maybe shift to looking at what geography majors do. So what's really unique about the geography department at UMW is that we place a lot of emphasis and have the resources for our students to actually go out and do geography. So we think it's very important to go out and actually practice geography in the field. So many of our professors do field work with our students, and that might be recording GPS locations, exploring the cultural landscape, examining erosion and deposition as what's happening here. We try and give you plenty of opportunities to actually do geographic research. Because I think, again, that's what you would do later on in life, right? Later on in life, when you graduate from UMW, hopefully with your geography degree, you're not going to be, no one's going to ask you, like, what's the capital of, so-and-so. You're not going to be taking that quizzes, right? Ideally, like, you'll be out actually practicing and doing geography. And so we want you to do that here. We want you to be exposed to that here. And so again, I think it's students underestimate the importance of actually doing independent research as undergraduates. And so when I was getting my PhD in geography, I had done independent research as an undergrad, and I just thought that that was normal. I thought that every university did that with students. And it wasn't until I got to grad school that I realized, no, that's a very unique experience. Like most colleges, don't emphasize undergraduate research the same way we do, in the same way that I had, thankfully, at my undergrad institution. And so the nice thing about our department, we have 10 full-time faculty. And so you can do field work in everything from urban geography to cultural geography. I do research on food, I do research on religion. We have other GIS faculty. And so we have enough faculty that we can really pair to your interest and give you a broad training in the discipline. So then after you graduate, a lot of people ask, well, what do geographers actually do once you graduate? There are lots of career opportunities for geography majors. There's not one set career path. And so I think sometimes that makes students nervous because they're not very clear, like, okay, well, I'll get this degree, but what do I do after that? But what's great about a degree in geography is that you have the critical thinking and geographic skills to really look at the world and make sense of it. And that means that you can really do anything with a geography degree. So we've had students do everything from internships while they're here with local agencies. I've had many students go on to graduate degree programs and be very successful. We've had students work for everything from the CIA to the Defense Intelligence Agency, city planning districts, regional planning districts, environmental consulting firms. That's another big employer. I've had students join the Peace Corps. Actually, at UMW, we're a big institution with the Peace Corps. We have a lot of students do that. So these are just a few examples, but certainly if you have examples or ideas of things that you want to do after you graduate, we can talk about that and how you get there. And that's what we do. Like we sit down as advisors with students and really talk about, what is it you want to do once you graduate? And if you don't know yet, that's totally fine. But if you have some idea, then we can help make sure that the classes that you're taking here become tools in your toolbox that you can use later. Students also often ask, what is the job market like for geography? And so you can see these are some BLS statistics on annual average wages of geographers across the country, which you see are quite good. And the Bureau of Labor Statistics has predicted that the number of workers in the geography field will increase 35% over the next decade, as compared to a 15% overall increase in general occupations. So we're actually beating the national average for looking at the number of jobs that will be available in geography. So it's a good time, I think, to be a geographer. Students also often ask about GIS, and so we can talk about that during the Q&A time as well. So GIS stands for Geographic Information Systems, and they're basically computer systems that are used for map making and analysis. And so most of us use GIS on a daily basis without even realizing it. If you've used things like Google Maps before, it's essentially a form of GIS. And so basically, if you work with GIS, you're using maps to analyze spatial data, make decisions about spatial data, and help solve problems. So how do you know if you want to be a geographer? Beth, how did you know that you wanted to major in geography? How did you decide?
Yeah, so the first, I guess, one of the first courses I took here when I was a freshman was Introduction to GIS. And I really enjoyed that class. And I was trying to figure out a major to pair it with. And I talked to Dr. Hannah, who was teaching Intro to GIS, and he told me to start taking geography classes and see if I liked them. And I ended up loving it because I've always had an interest in learning about different places around the world, and um, GIS and geography go very well together,
Love
obviously.
that.
So,
That's
yeah, that's
awesome. Yeah, I hear that a lot from students that they have just kind of a general curiosity about the world. Yeah, I think for me it was similar. I've always been interested in, I'm more of a human and cultural geographer. So I've always really been interested in different cultures, different religions, different languages. I've always found that really fascinating. Um, and so what I liked about geography too was that I'm kind of a dabbler. I like a lot of different things. I have a lot of varying hobbies and things. And so it kind of attracts, I suppose. But I like that the discipline, I can on one day, like I'll teach a class on quantitative methods in geography. And so we'll do like really intense statistical research. And then I can go and teach a class on sacred spaces or southern foodways. And so I can do a lot of different things within geography and look at things from a lot of different perspectives. And at the same time, bring in history and religion and math and like all these other skills, and look at them from a spatial perspective. And so that's something that I really love about geography. It keeps it very fresh as a professor, and as a student, I enjoyed that as well. I enjoyed that I always could just kind of keep learning and keep pushing myself. So we do a lot again with our students, and we actually have been rated, our department, as the #1 geography program in the Southeast. And I think it's for good reason, again, because we really emphasize doing geography. We emphasize getting our students to do independent research, going on field trips with students, doing field work with students. This is a picture of a trip that we took to the Southeastern Geography Conference. We go every year, minus the pandemic year, I suppose. But other than that, we really haven't missed a year. We take a van full of students to the Southeastern Geography Conference, and the students compete in the Geography Bowl. I think I have a Geography Bowl picture. Oh, I should have put a Geography Bowl picture. But we won a number of years the Geography Bowl. And it's a neat conference because it's a professional geography conference. And so professional geographers are actually going there and presenting, people that are full-time professors. And yet our students present as well. And so our undergraduate students present their research too and do really, really well. So again, I think we practice doing geography well. We try and equip our students with a good set of skills that they can use later. And again, we do a lot of independent research, and oftentimes actually publish with students, which is again unusual when you look at other institutions. And so here's just a couple papers that I co-authored with students. And so for this paper, we worked together as part of a research team, and we actually did some really neat research on food waste, did all the interviews together, and then collaboratively wrote the paper, like decided how we wanted to write it. We each took a chunk of the paper and wrote it. And it was a great experience for me, and I think the students really enjoyed it as well. And it's published in an actual journal. And the same for this other paper was written by a student as an honors paper. So we have our university honors program, which you're welcome to check out. And then we also have an honors program just within our department. So you can get an honors degree in geography by writing an honors thesis, and you work with an advisor, and then you'll have a committee, similar to like a master's thesis. And so I'd worked with the student, I was her advisor on a paper where she was looking at Cracker Barrel restaurants, and she was doing research on them. And it was such a cool project that I thought it could probably be published. And so we worked together to revise it. And then we've submitted it to a journal, an academic journal, and it was accepted, which is really cool. Oh, I knew I had a geography bowl picture somewhere. So again, I think we're a very enthusiastic department. We love our students. We love geography. We love working with our students. It's been certainly been hard during the pandemic to not see you all and be able to be in person. But even just seeing everybody over Zoom has been nice. And so next year, fingers crossed, we'll get back to normal. But our students, again, I think do really well after they graduate, hopefully as a result of the training that they get in our department. So if you have any questions, I'll put my email in the chat as well if you think of things later. Let's see. I'm always happy to answer questions. And again, there's a lot of us, there's 10 professors, and so you can email me. I can help route you to the right professor if you have a question for somebody else. But I'll go ahead and stop sharing for now, and then I'd love to hear from you all what questions you have. So Maxwell and Sam, what questions do you have? Feel free to unmute yourself or add questions to the chat. Awesome, so we have a question in the chat. Most interested in being a regional or community planner? We get that a lot, definitely. Are there courses within the geography major that would be best set up a student for career in planning? Yes, definitely. Beth, have you taken any planning courses or any courses in that?
Unfortunately, I haven't. I really wanted to, but I never got the chance. But I've heard really good things about the classes we offer.
Excellent. Yeah. So we have a number of classes. It kind of depends. If you're just set in like urban community planning, we have like absolute courses in that field. I also see some students interested in that, but they like a little environmental as well, right? So it kind of depends on your interest. And we can talk more about that. But yes, we have a I think as a freshman or sophomore, cities would probably be the best like intro course to that if you're interested in regional or community planning. So most students will start out with our cities course. We also have a nature of cities course, and so that's exactly what it sounds like. So it's kind of this interaction between people and the built environment in cities. And then we have a planning seminar as well. So we have an actual course on urban planning. And then I also see sometimes students, again, who are interested in that, certainly do internships, but also do independent research. And so if you're already kind of setting out now and saying, I really want to be a regional or community planner, I would absolutely encourage you to do some independent research. And so maybe you could come up with your own research project and work with a professor looking at those issues. So I've had students I'm more, again, a cultural and kind of human geographer. So I've had students do food research and cultural research. But I could see a student doing a project looking at, innovative urban planning, or I don't know what particularly draws you to planning, but you can explore that on your own as well. And students can also design their own courses. And so maybe what's intriguing you about planning is like planning in Europe or something like that, just something completely different. I wish you had an urban planning in Europe course. Well, you can design whatever classes you want. So I've had students do that, come into it and say, I wish you had a class on X, Y, or Z. And then we work together to design a course and do an independent study that way too. So yes, absolutely. We have some good courses for that. So I would say your first year, try and take the cities course, I think would be a great start for you. Awesome question. What other questions do you have? What are some of your favorite classes in geography? Well, I'll think of my favorite classes to teach. Beth, could you think of some to take? Like, it might be the same answer, but I know what classes I love teaching. I wonder what classes you love taking.
Because I think we kind of have similar interests when it comes to geography, because I definitely enjoy human and regional geography the best. Can you guys hear me? I don't know. I think Dr. Finlayson might be frozen, or I'm frozen. Okay, good.
We're back.
You're back. Okay. I couldn't tell if it was me or you.
I don't know. It's all right.
Yeah. But I was just saying that regional and cultural geography classes are my favorites. So, for example, I liked geography of the Middle East was really interesting. My senior seminar, which I actually took with Dr. Finlayson, was probably one of my favorite geography classes. That was Southern Foodways, or basically the geography of Southern food. And it goes into deeper issues like race and uh, uh, social classes and things like that. So yeah, I think that those are my favorite classes.
Awesome. I would say those are my favorite to teach as well. Yeah, we do have similar interests, Beth. I like it.
Yeah,
Um,
can I add one more thing?
of course.
I just remembered. I also did some independent research as well. Um, I did a cartography practicum with one of the professors here. He's a cartographer, and basically we actually had like real clients who we made maps for throughout the course of the semester. So one of our clients was actually the school, and that was Office of Disability Resources. So we made a map, an accessibility map of campus. So you can actually access it online, and we continue to update it whenever there's any construction or changes on campus. But I knew nothing about cartography really going into this practicum, but Dr. Hannah taught me pretty much everything and all the software that's needed to make professional maps. And even though that wasn't really like a course, it gave me some practical skills that helped me get an internship and now a full-time job. So that was definitely probably one of the most impactful courses I've taken in college in general.
I love that, Beth. That's awesome. Excellent. Yeah, I think we do have similar interests. I From the teaching perspective, certainly one of my favorite classes is our Southern Foodways course. So as Beth said, it's looking at Southern food from a geographic perspective. I really like, I'll call it sneaky geography classes. And so I like geography classes that sound like on the surface just really cool and interesting and fun. But then they get at much deeper issues. And so our Southern Foodways course is like that, right? I mean, I think most people enjoy Southern food. I certainly do. But then through that lens, we can look at these deep issues of like racism and gender and, these issues of contestation identity in the South through this lens of Southern food. And so I teach a lot of classes that are like that. I teach a class on sacred space that I also really enjoy. That again, on the surface is like, oh, sacred spaces. We'll look at churches and mosques and synagogues and things, and that's really neat. But again, through them, we look at bigger ideas about cultural geography, about how place can affect people, how there's issues like contestation, the idea that people contest space. So that I find really fun. I like kind of teasing out the bigger issues behind topics that again on the surface seem kind of fun and frivolous. But I enjoy teaching world regional geography. That's a class a lot of freshmen take, Geog 101. It's the biggest class I teach, and so it's 70 students. And that's the biggest class that you'll find at UMW. Really, we don't have super large classes. I know at other institutions that class, World Regional Geography, has like 400 and 500 students in it, which I can't imagine. But because it's a larger class here, I like teaching it in a way because then I have such a wide array of life experience and perspectives in that class. So it makes for a really neat exploration of the world to have people who might be from that country or have visited that country or something. So I really enjoy that as well. Great questions so far. What other questions do you have? Keep them coming.
I had a question. Is globalization more related to trade or geography?
Is globalization related more to trade or geography? Do you mean as a course or like my academic opinion?
Your academic opinion.
Ooh, that's a good question. I see globalization more as a function of geography, although I think you'll agree I'm probably biased. But I wrote a textbook, so I wrote a world regional geography textbook, and I talk a lot about globalization in it. And I see that trade factors into globalization, but it's not just trade. Like globalization, I think, isn't just equated with trade. And so you can think of globalization in terms of the spread of cultural ideas, the spread of our class will talk about, political systems or military systems or even, culture. And so we see that Western culture has become kind of the global culture in a way. So yeah, I see it more as a function of geography, but again, I'm willing to entertain dissent, and I think that I'm probably biased as a geographer. That's a cool question, Sam. I like that. We have a globalization course too, so if you're, yeah, go ahead.
I never took it, but I know that's offered.
Yeah, we have a globalization course, and we have the development course that certainly includes globalization as well. So yeah, if you're interested in globalization, we've got you. And then across the hall in political science too. So political science international affairs has globalization type courses as well. So awesome, cool question. What other questions do you have? Any other general questions about UMW or the student experience? You have a student here, so we're certainly happy to entertain those questions as well.
And if you guys have any questions later, you can always email me. I put my email in the chat.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks, Beth. Excellent. Well, as we wrap up, Beth, and certainly if you think of more questions, pop them in the chat. But Beth, what do you wish you'd known about UMW before coming here?
What I wish that I knew about UMW?
Yeah.
That's a hard question. Let me think about that.
Yeah, I'll mull too. I guess as a professor, what I wish I would have known, I think is that students really love to do independent research. I think certainly I like independent research, but I like school so much I never left, right? So of course I would like independent research. And so I was really surprised that students like it so much too. And so I have to kind of keep reminding myself sometimes that I have to ask students, hey, I have to just kind of make those projects available to students because students really, really seem to enjoy them. And don't just look at them as extra work, like they see them as a really valuable experience. And so as a professor, I think I wish I would have known that more. And I need to, again, keep reminding myself that students really like that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Beth?
I'm having a hard time thinking of this because I had two siblings and my mom also went here as well. So two of my brothers went to Mary Washington and my mom went here. And I actually was pretty familiar with it going into freshman year.
All right. Well, how about just what is your favorite thing about UMW then?
Okay, that's an easier question. So probably my favorite thing about Mary Washington is just the small class sizes and just like how eager professors are to work with students, which you're just kind of talking about. It's really easy to get involved with research or any type of work, independent work here, even like your freshman year. So for example, my freshman year, I did work. My professor asked me if I wanted to help him out over the summer. It's kind of like a paid professor assistant job because he noticed I did really well in my the GIS class I took with him. So I basically over the summer worked with him and created lab exercises for his class, helped him do a little bit of research, and it was really great. It gave me some more experience with GIS. I was able to get paid, and it helped me get more involved with the geography department. And that was just like the summer after my freshman year, after only taking two GIS classes. So that just goes to show like how willing professors are to work with students here.
That's awesome. Excellent. Yeah, I would say if you want to work with a faculty member or have ideas about independent research, definitely let us know. Don't feel like I'm a freshman, I shouldn't ask, really like we are here for you and we are excited that you're excited. And so if you have ideas or, want to work on projects, by all means, let your professors know.
And I don't think like get these types of opportunities so easily at other schools, especially larger. That's what makes Mary Washington unique, I think, is its size.
No, I think you're exactly right. And that's what I mean. I went to, thankfully, a similar institution and was so shocked when I went to grad school and heard that people had never met like a lot of their professors, right? They had TAs that taught all their classes. They never did independent research. And so I felt super well equipped for grad school, even though I was the first in my family to go to college, much less graduate school. Like I had no idea what I was doing. And yeah, I had this foundation where I had a lot that was expected of me, but I could use those opportunities. And so I'd done a lot of research and worked closely with professors. And so I was kind of used to that model. Other questions? Shelly, welcome. If you have questions, we're just chatting. I'll put my email address again in the chat. If you weren't able to come right up live, that's all right. So if you think of questions later and want to email me, feel free. What other questions do you all have? All right, excellent. Well, I'll stick around for just a moment or two if you have any other questions. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us. Again, congrats on getting into UMW. My email's in the chat, Beth's email's in the chat. So if you have any questions, by all means, feel free to contact us, all right? But thanks so much. It was great to chat with you all. Bye, thanks again. Oh, Sam, great question. Are there scholarship opportunities with independent research in geography? So we have a departmental scholarship, and so that would be for students, like high achieving students, their junior year. So it's given to a non-senior student. And so that is one opportunity. There's also university scholarships as well that aren't limited to geography. And so you can definitely, be encouraged even your first year to apply for those. A lot of students qualify and they don't even realize that they qualify for scholarships. And then like Beth said, there's various paid positions, and so they're not scholarships, but you might work with a faculty member on their research and it's funded by a grant, and so they might have some funding for you. We have departmental lab aides with Beth. I've been a lab aide for a long time. And so that's a paid position, again, not a scholarship, but a paid opportunity in the department as well. Yeah, great question. Any other questions? All right, well, again, it was so wonderful to meet you all. If you think of questions later, feel free to contact me. But I hope you have a great rest of your evening and congrats again.
Nice meeting you.